My last time down, I actually rode my motorcycle from California all the way down here. It was a 4-month journey, and that would be something that I would always search out and look forward to at the end of the day. I would always look for the local brewery. Fortunately, in Central and South America, those are fewer and farther between, but they are out there. And I would always look forward to that at the end of a long day, being able to search out like the local beer and check out some of the local flavors. Those kinds of things are harder to find down here, and I think it means that much more. So, I mean, back then, you know, when we started brewing, everything down here was your typical industrial style lager. And so when we started brewing, you know, bitter, strong, hoppy ales, and things like, you know, imperial stouts, the locals didn't know what to make of it. We were really on the cusp of what ended up being the craft beer boom in this country.
What's up, party people? Chad coming to you here from the brewery in Baguales from beautiful downtown Patagonia. The clips that we just showed you at the beginning of the episode were from a promo video that we shot a year ago, back when my beard game was strong and we could gather at a bar and enjoy a pint of beer with our friends without fear of being arrested or contracting some sort of deadly virus. If you'd like to watch that promo video in its entirety, we'll post the link here. Where's the link? Oh, the link is here, excuse me, if you'd like to watch the promo video in its entirety. But here we are now, treading water and neck deep in the shit soup that is 2020. As a result, pardon the mess, the brewery is cold and quiet, and we haven't had housekeeping here for a few months. We had to shut down in late March of 2020. That was about 5 years ago. In that time, I think we've only managed to brew one batch of beer. That was our Russian Imperial Stout, which is quite delicious, by the way. But the point of today's episode is to discuss the brewery itself. I know we've showed you the brewery, we've talked about the brewery, we've talked briefly about the history, but more specifically, I've had a lot of people asking me, how is it that a gringo from California ended up owning a craft brewery down here in Patagonia? More astonishingly, how did a gringo from California with zero brewing experience end up owning a craft brewery down here in Patagonia? So some of the history that you may already be familiar with. I came down originally in 2004 as a rock climber. Patagonia to me at that time was completely unknown, but I fell in love immediately. And in thinking to myself, what could make Patagonia cooler? The first thing that popped to mind was craft beer. At the time, craft beer did not really exist in this part of the world. I returned over the next couple of years and started researching opening up a brewery down here in Patagonia. Around that time, a couple of larger craft breweries had begun to establish themselves up in Santiago, and we discovered that there were a couple of small craft breweries across the border in Argentina. One, I believe, in Ushuaia, one in El Calafate, and I believe one in El Chaltén. But here on the Chilean side of the border in southern Patagonia, it did not exist. So our initial research ended up taking us to El Calafate, to one of these small craft breweries. When we showed up, the lights were off, nobody was home, so we ended up going next door to the house, knocked on the front door, and asked the gentleman that answered if he knew who owned the brewery next door. It turned out he did. That gentleman's name was Oscar. Oscar was very gracious. He ended up showing us around his brewery, and in discussing our plans, he confided in us that he was actually in the process of upgrading his own brewing equipment. However, before he did so, he needed to find a buyer for his old brewing equipment. Match made in heaven. As part of the agreement, Oscar also taught us how to brew on the equipment. The original brew house was a homemade 300-liter system. There was nothing stainless steel or sanitary about it. Plastic fittings, made by a Czechoslovakian brewmaster who lived and brewed beer in Argentina as a hobby. He created the equipment for his children, hoping they would follow in his footsteps. However, they did not. The Czechoslovakian ended up gifting the equipment to his assistant brewer, who was Oscar, who we then years later ended up buying it from. These were 3 of the original vessels, and while they're wood clad, they are stainless steel, but they did not have manways. The manways that you see on top of these vessels now, we had to add after the fact in order to access the interior of the vessel and properly clean them. So in early 2006, we managed to get the equipment imported here into Chile, and I came down with these clone recipes, and we had to figure out how to use them with the ingredients that were available here locally. 2006, we set up Cerveza Baguales in a small backyard brewery that we constructed, and we shipped down Cornelius kegs and just residential style kegerators from Micromatic from the United States, because not only did craft brew not exist at the time, but draft brew did not exist at the time. Everything was bottles and cans of your typical industrial style lager. So after we were up and running, we were able to convince just a handful of companies here in town, a handful of restaurants, to install one of our kegerators and start selling this weird beer. At first, nobody knew what to make of it. It was unlike anything the locals had ever tasted. But eventually, palates started to evolve, and we developed ourselves a very strong local following. From there, we were able to move into Torres del Paine National Park, becoming the first craft beer served on tap in the park, which, as I've mentioned before, is something I'm still very proud of. And eventually, we moved down into Punta Arenas, which is the largest city in the region, about 3 hours south of us. That for us was kind of the big leagues. At the same time, we got some people's attention, and it was attention that we didn't necessarily want. As a result, we ended up having to pull our equipment out of Punta Arenas and eventually pull our equipment out of Torres del Paine National Park. That was the inspiration to eventually open up our own facility, our own restaurant, our own bar. In 2009, which happened to coincide with the US economy taking a complete dump, I relocated down here to Patagonia full-time to begin constructing the restaurant. We ended up purchasing an abandoned house on the Plaza de Armas from the turn of the century, gutted the front half, built the rear half, which is the facility that I stand in today, and we had our grand opening New Year's Eve 2010. The restaurant was an instant hit. Bar culture didn't really exist in this part of the world back then. Everything was a discotheque. So by coupling our strong craft beer with a typical American style pub menu, buffalo wings, American style hamburgers, we really created an environment that a lot of the locals had never seen, and a lot of the travelers immediately flocked to for some of that comfort food. Shortly thereafter, though, unfortunately, we became victims of our own success, and we were no longer able to meet our own in-house demand. As a result, we ended up having to stop distribution and focus strictly on our in-house sales. Unfortunately, in 2010, shortly after the restaurant opened, I ended up moving back to the United States due to family issues. At that time, I ended up leaving the restaurant in the capable hands of my friend and eventual business partner, Andrew, and the business thrived under his management. In 2011, the brewery ended up entering the inaugural Copa Cervezas de America beer contest. We entered our flagship Pale Ale and Dark Ale. Our Pale Ale actually ended up taking a bronze medal. Here it is. Look at that. Look at that. You see that? Can I get a close-up? No, I don't have a cameraman. My bad. Can I get a close-up? Can you see that? Can you see that? Bronze medal. Bronze medal. Maybe we'll edit in a picture of that. Now, rumor has it, and this is unconfirmed, But rumor has it that had our dark beer been entered in the correct category, it would have gotten a gold medal. Unfortunately though, someone failed to enter it in the right category. I'm not gonna name names. In 2012, we were finally able to secure new brewing equipment. That's the 1,500 liter brew house we currently have, along with a 3,000 liter fermentation vessel. And I think that was about it. We purchased these other 2 vessels from various national manufacturers over the next few years. Rose and I relocated back down to Puerto Natales in early of 2019, and at that point I took over management of the company once again. Since that time, we expanded our line of beers from the 3 or 4 that we had been brewing for years to include West Coast style IPAs, Russian Imperial Stouts, wit beers, strong ales, and we've had a lot of fun doing it, and we've had a lot of great feedback. Fortunately, from the time that we started back in 2006, the craft beer industry has boomed here in Chile, and we even now have the ACI, which is the Independent Brewers Association down in this part of the world, comprising of a lot of great individuals, a lot of great breweries, and I've really got my work cut out for me to try to catch up with the rest of the industry. While the industry was expanding and exploding here in the country, unfortunately, since we spent a lot of years resting on our laurels, we were kind of left in the dust. It's been a lot of work trying to catch up, but it's a labor of love, and I've been having a lot of fun meeting a lot of great individuals and hopefully being able to collaborate with a lot of these breweries soon. We actually had a couple collaborations scheduled until the pandemic hit, and that kind of put everything on hold. Unfortunately, once we were shut down in March, I had to suspend everyone's employment contracts here at Baguales, which consisted of around 30 employees at the time. We've done our best with to-go food and beer sales in the meantime, but hopefully, fingers crossed, within the next couple of weeks, we're going to start brewing again with the intention of bottling to start distributing to local retail outlets here in town, which is really the best option to start moving product once again. And we'll cut to a few more clips from that promotional video to give you an idea of what the operation looked like before the pandemic shut us down.
Soy el encargado de la producción de cerveza de Baguales. Es uno de los primeros brewpub que hubo en Chile, y a su vez fue uno de los primeros en fabricar cerveza acá en Natales, y fue el primero en distribuir cerveza en Torres del Paine. Vamos a empezar a hacer muchas colaboraciones. En Baguales siempre ha tenido su estilo clásico, más apegado a los estilos de cerveza norteamericanos, y vamos a tratar de sacar más estilos, ir mejorando, cambiando las cosas que ya tenemos.
I'm a beer sommelier, and I just love beer. As a woman in the beer industry, it's been along the years a little bit difficult, and this is the first place when I really can brew my own beer. We've been brewing this last week our first IPA, and that was like the best thing in the world.
What I really did was I strived to make a place that I would want to come hang out, you know, after climbing or after trekking through the park. And to me, that's what it's really all about. You know, I love that. I love that vibe. I love kind of like the nervous energy and the anticipation before they head out to the park. And I love to see them celebrate and you know, drink beer and talk about what they saw and what they did by the time they get back. What we really missed was that kind of like, I guess, sense of community for the tourists. Someplace like the tourists can come and not be made to feel like a tourist. Good beer, good food, good laughs. I mean, that's what draws a lot of people together.
Buenas noches, buenas noches. Primera vez que estamos en Puerto Natales. Muchas gracias por eso a todos los amigos de Baguales. Un aplauso para Baguales, por favor. Muchas gracias.
Hey guys, June 3rd, 2020, I'm here at Baguales. It's a bit of a bittersweet day today. It's brew day. I always love brew day. But this might very well be the last batch of beer we ever brew here at Baguales. So I didn't really expect to be saying that when I got here a year ago, but you know, things change. So Chris and Carolina are back there in the brewery right now. I'm watching them prep for this batch. Seeing as how it was the last batch, I think Chris wanted to brew some Imperial Stout, or Azabache, which is one of his favorite brews. But I told them to get a little funky, be a little more expressive. So I think they're going to go for a higher gravity batch, and they're going to throw some smoked peppers in there as well, give it a little extra kick. So we'll see how that does. We're actually going to end up pitching to one of our original 500-liter wood vessels that we got from Argentina with our original brew house back in 2005. So yeah, they're back there doing what they do. I'm up here trying to stay out of their way, and you know, fingers crossed, we'll see how things go. Video.
Yep.
So hopefully I've answered some of those questions that people had regarding how it is I came to own a brewery down here. Bottom line was, it started out as an expensive hobby, and just due to the fact that we were in the right place at the right time and had the right idea, it turned into something pretty cool. Fingers crossed that we get out of this pandemic sometime soon and we're able to open the restaurant again so we can start having more fun. Because quite honestly, right now, this place is a little depressing when it's quiet, when it's cold, dark, and quiet. What else can I say? There are a few things better in life than being able to pull a fresh beer off of one of your own vessels. Ah, look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Look at all that head. A fresh glass of head. That underneath all that head right there, that is our Trece de la Suerte Strong Ale. We brewed that for our 13th anniversary. Ergo the name Trece de la Suerte. Lucky number 13. Look at that, huh? Look at that. Look at that, it's starting to settle. It'll be ready to drink in about an hour. There it goes. There it goes. That's my bad, I don't really have the correct fitting on there to be pouring beer. Oh yeah, look at that. Beautiful, isn't it? Beautiful. It's actually too early to even start drinking, but don't tell anybody. It's not like I'm gonna post this online or anything. Oh, not bad. Not bad. Fuck, it's cold in here. God damn it. The brewery's not insulated and it's freezing outside and it's also howling wind. And you know, I didn't want to wear my jacket. I wanted to be able to rep La Cumbre. That's from Rose's hometown of Albuquerque, representing the 505 La Cumbre Brewing Company. They do some excellent IPAs. Father Nelson, it's delicious, delicious. Definitely recommend checking them out if you're ever in the 505. Definitely worth making a stop. The hell is that? Somebody here? I think somebody's here. Cut to this. We get a close-up on that. Does that work? Can you see that? I'm not sure if you can see that or not. I had to fire my cameraman. Oh, I almost dropped it. I almost dropped the award. That would have sucked. There's always noise out. There's always something going on outside. People honking their horns or screaming about something. I don't know what's going on. What am I gonna do? I gotta put this award away. Should probably hang it up somewhere. That's what most people do, right? They didn't even pay decent money to have that award framed correctly. The mat's all fucked up.